Here we good?
Yep, we're good.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, so regular voting meeting night, June 14th, and we are going to have an extended exec session, and so we're going to go ahead and move to that right now, as soon as Chris or hopefully make a motion.
I motion we enter into exec session for the purpose of discussing regarding proposed pending or current litigation, collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law, and matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation.
Second.
Thanks, Moira. All in favor? That's everyone, so we're gonna be in exec and we'll be back. Back from our executive session, we crammed a lot in a short period of time. We do have 5 board members, so that means this is a legal open meeting, and we do have a quorum. And this is another special night. It's a great day outside, but we're really, really happy that some folks from Enfield are here today. That's where my son went to school, and I live out there, and so I really, this is special for me to be able to have you all come tonight.
Did you also go to that school?
It's a long story. I went to a one-room schoolhouse out in Pates Road, and then it was West Hill, and then there was Glenwood Elementary, which is the Racker Center. That one used to be Glenwood Elementary. So I did not go to Enfield, but I did live on a farm out there, and my son went to Enfield. So we love Enfield, all right? So that's it's pretty clear. And we're really happy to hear from you tonight. And you're gonna go first because there's some adults that wanna talk. They can wait. We wanna hear from you.
I'll start off. I promised them I wouldn't talk long. I even made notes so I don't talk too long because you wanna hear from them. Yes. We wanna start off with a few thanks. Our artistic partner was Derek Nelson of Spooky Action Industrial Arts. He's a metal fabrication artist. And he made this project come to life, didn't he?
He's also her son.
He is my son.
Yeah.
And then Keith Harrington and Eileen and the leadership team at our school, like without them, this wouldn't have been possible. IPEI, again, because we needed money, right guys?
Yeah.
So they had to present to a bunch of people to get the money that we needed.
Yeah.
We also collaborated with Dr. Lobach's DecaLab at Cornell.
Where's the camera?
They came in and helped us a little bit with design process and of course the learning farm. So I just wanted to thank all those people right up the top. It is hard to tell about this project because it's been going on all year.
Yeah.
My 3 focuses this year as a teacher were mental health, social emotional skills and understanding, and providing a space for agency and a sense of confidence, mental confidence. It's been a rough few years. So this project grew out of that. There were multiple steps, lots of researching and working and arguing. I need some arguments. Yes, yes. Yes, we did need lots.
$4
of
grand.
Yeah, you're right.
$4 grand, $100.64. Yes.
You can see why I have to be quick. Lots of collaboration and wrestling with ideas to get to a thing, because we had to make one thing. So I'm gonna let these guys get started. They're gonna show you our plan and explain the garden. They're gonna talk about our design criteria, which is how they came up with the plan and what the purpose of the garden is. And we brought our work list so you can see what we've done and what we will be doing. So I'll turn it over to you guys. If you need me, let me know.
Okay, this is our first day doing it.
Well, can we do the plan first?
Okay, yes. Okay. So here are the plans. Okay. I guess
Can I ask if you just introduce yourself?
Oh, good.
Yeah, my name is Henry.
My name is Ella. Is that?
Hello, greetings to you all. My name is Maria Haynes.
Go ahead.
I am Zachary.
He is Zach.
Zach. Zach Arthur.
No, definitely.
Okay,
Yes.
Marcia.
I'm Marcia.
I'm Adriana. I'm Lily. I'm Skylar.
It's great to see you.
Do you need me to hold it, or you guys can hold it?
I'm
Alright, here you go, you need to explain the plans.
Okay, so the plan was, Henry, you explain. Upside down.
You can go ahead and stand up too, though.
So this is the chalkboard, we have this set up, that would be like right against the school wall. This grass forest, that would be like, there's gonna be bamboo, that's actually that cut.
That's the my circle.
And the mound, we are starting the mound, but it's not in that picture because that's our first day working on it. There's going to be an arch later in the slideshow, there are going to be metal planters all around. This is not going to be built until next year. This is going to be, I'm not
Butterfly garden.
I'm not a specialist for this one, so I'm not. Trellises, which are gonna be for vines. They're gonna be berries, bush and bush, and strawberries. And they're going to be a lot of edible things, so you could just, and we're actually, I made the prototype, but we're making like a list where teachers can vote on what's going to, like, what the time and the amount of people are gonna be in it.
So that will lead us to our design criteria, so let's,
Yep.
And we'll
Smile,
have
would
one
you?
about- Can I hold this sign criteria?
yes, and Smile, could you come down and read them?
That's Zach
Yes.
with the shovel.
Okay.
No, it's
You with the shovel.
This
Okay,
is
Smile, read.
our design. So the garden will need to have things that make you feel calmer, safer, and comfortable. And it also has, well, I probably already said that. It needs to have places you can hide away just in case you need a lot of space. And it also needs things that make you feel like you belong in the garden and make you feel happy, and you can like lay down in there and just relax for 1 second. And it also needs to have things that you can touch, taste, smell, see, and hear.
You guys, do you wanna peel that off and show them our
Yep.
work list?
Oh, that's what I
Can they talk
was
about the work list?
Who wants to hold
And over here,
Alright, take turns maybe, okay?
So this is the work list. So okay, so first of all, there will be lots of things like thinking, talking, and looking for like, so like you could like talk like to other people in the garden, and you can like look at the like flowers and stuff, and you can also like think like just by yourself if you just want to be alone. Second, lots of collaborating.
Collaborating is working together.
Third, lots of planning. So we'll be doing lots of planning.
Five, measure and layout.
And this is I'm presenting things to do next. So one, take up grass. Take. Yes.
Did we already do that, Ella?
Yes.
So everything that's crossed off, you already did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spray on layout.
Third, landscape, cloth, and gravel. So we already did that.
Four, go to spooky action.
wait, I'll help, go to spooky action, industrial arts.
Industrial arts.
Fifth, install and assemble planters, fencing, trellises, and arch.
So that's all the things we have done.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're gonna show that in those slides.
Alright,
The things now we have not done. Fill raised beds.
We have like half on that, halfway on that.
Half and half.
7, construct grass couch, plant, water.
That's next year,
Install solar fountain.
which we are doing.
9, begin planting. So we
The
haven't.
final stage. Use and care guidelines. Present to the school.
alright.
That's
So we're deep in it, right? And we're not done yet, we're still working. Okay, would you like to share the pictures in our section?
Yes.
And then we'll be all finished, alright?
Everybody,
Oh my God, sit down.
Stand
hold,
up.
I am
Sit down.
holding, I am holding.
Okay.
This is our first day of doing this. It's on.
We were stripping the sod and getting the grass gone, right?
And
Lots of digging.
Some of them we did not have photos.
Yeah, I'm right next to Zach who's posing on a shovel.
Okay,
I'm the one
let's
taking
move
pictures.
on.
Hold on, everybody can't talk out front.
This is what it ended up looking like.
This is what we covered with the stuff.
Yep, when we were getting ready.
Yeah, this is before Derek came and like helped us. He was still like making.
So Derek sent us updates. We probably have 100 pictures as he was working. He was sending us little videos and images of what was happening. And the chipmunk is Nibbler. We'll tell him about Nibbler in a minute.
Well, you'll see him in a video.
Yeah, next
So we
video.
yeah, he's the sponsor.
He's
Alright.
very. This is the video.
So-
Trip to Spooky Act.
Yeah, we went to Derek's shop. He invited us, and from the get-go, they walked out, and it was this amazing bus. I cannot tell you how many people used the bathroom on that bus. On the way
The
to and
bathroom was
from.
very shaky.
Twenty
Okay.
people actually.
So- Let's watch the video.
Let's start.
Thank you.
That was fantastic. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Just real quick, where's Derek's workshop and all that?
That's still here.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, we need to.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having us.
I don't know. Over there. My mom.
So, Enfield folks are gonna go in.
Alright, come on guys, the airport meeting.
Oh God, you forgot the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
I'm Lucy's friend. Yes. They were all laughing.
So we will move on to public comment and the rest of our agenda. And thanks again for Enfield, fourth and fifth grade, correct? Fourth and fifth grade at Enfield Elementary. Really, really hands-on, very exciting projects out at Enfield. Heard about it, a lot about what they're doing in garden spaces earlier, and it's great to hear from you. So we'll start with public comment.
I will apologize in advance for any mispronunciation. I believe in proper pronunciation, so I apologize. But up first on the list is Kim Rothman.
My name is Kim Rockman, and I'm a parent of 2 first graders at Northeast Elementary School. I'm grateful for another chance to address the board, and I apologize for speaking about and reading a letter on a topic that was not allowed at the Human Resources work session last week. As a parent and as a human being, it's frustrating to have a school administrator who my family has grown to trust and rely upon due to her own diligence, kindness, and unflappable perseverance, removed with no warning, no information, and then to find there's no public venue in which we can even speak this person's name, let alone specifically address or communicate our support, except in a veiled and coded way. But I've told you how I feel. The reason I wanted to come back to it tonight is to express a question and an idea that my wife first asked me. How these events at Northeast Elementary School are playing out in the minds of the kid brain, our kids' brains. How should they feel when a big person, a person who is in power, a person who is in charge has disappeared without a trace, without a word, without any sort of message on where this leader has gone? How can these little powerless people are supposed to feel safe and secure when we can't even keep the big people from disappearing? The decisions related to our school administrator and the way in which these decisions have been implemented have consequences for our children. What we can bear as adults, our kids and the youngest amongst them may not have the same abilities to grapple with. Was this factored into the decision-making process? Was this even considered? Someone asked at the Human Resources Working Group whether the City School District has an anti-retaliation policy, and the answer supplied by Mr. Bradwell was no. But of course, you don't need to have a policy for the school board to reject an action that's found to be retaliatory. There may be a high bar for review, but the actions of central administration must have a rational basis, and I do not think that actions taken in retaliation or as the result of personal animus would be or could be viewed as rational. Mr. Bradwell mentioned last week the burden of bearing the public narrative that derives from the information void surrounding human resources matters, and I do sympathize with that sentiment. I appreciate that you, volunteers, weather the storm of speculation and conspiracy theory that surrounds decisions you must make, and I do not wish to be in that seedy world of conjecture. I accept that there is information I do not know and may never know about this situation. Instead, I take my hope for a school system that is fair and reasonable and just, that honors hard work and leadership and those with the bravery to speak truth to power. And I take my faith in you, an independent body of volunteers with differing ideas but a common desire to do right by our children, school or staff members and administrators, you who do have information and the power to make actions correct if they are incorrect. And I ask you rhetorically, is this situation correct based on the totality of facts? Have decisions been reasoned, rational, and made in a timely and appropriate manner? Make no mistake, if you use your power to approve what has occurred expressly or impliedly by allowing it to go forward, you pave the way for repetition. Actions become patterns upon which systems are built. Is this how the system should be built? Thank you.
Up next, I have John Eckenrode, if I pronounced that correctly. If not, John, I apologize.
That's correct. Good evening. I've been a resident of the town of Ithaca for 39 years. I'm a retired Cornell professor, the father of a son who attended Ithaca schools, and a grandfather of 2 granddaughters currently in Ithaca schools. I live a few blocks up the street here in Renwick Heights. I wanted to bring to your attention an effort that I and several of my neighbors have launched to request that the New York State Department of Transportation mitigate the road noise coming from Route 13 adjacent to the high school and Boynton Middle School. We would like to solicit the board's support for our efforts. We realize that this may not be near the top of the list of critical issues facing the school district, but we believe that it is a quality of life and public health issue that affects our children as well as nearby residential neighborhoods. It is also one where some straightforward solutions are available to improve the situation. To date, we have raised our concerns with the Department of Transportation engineer in Cortland, who forwarded our letter to the regional Syracuse Department of Transportation office, which has responsibility for this stretch of road. In that letter, we suggested several possible mitigating actions that could fall under their jurisdiction. As a first step, we suggested a reduction of the speed limit between Day Street and the Stewart Park exit, a half-mile stretch from 55 miles an hour to 40. On May 20th, we received a letter from the acting regional traffic engineer. While not promising any specific actions at this time, he did say that they would conduct a field investigation of the speed limit request. I and others have raised this issue with a few members of the board, and we have received some respectful and helpful responses. At this time, we would ask that the appropriate school district staff dealing with facilities issues and school safety discuss the issue and hopefully endorse our efforts. School district support would certainly add weight to our efforts with the Department of Transportation. I and other residents would be happy to meet with the appropriate persons on the board and in the district offices to further discuss our concerns and our current efforts. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Up next is Megan Holberg.
Back again, no less nervous. Okay, so I know that all of you in your capacities in various roles have volunteered and applied for this position because you have empathy for the people who live and work in these school buildings, and you want to see learning, joy, and empathy thrive in all of our schools. I'm asking you again to remember that empathy and that these are the people that you serve. Think of the teacher who dedicates their time, care, and pockets to the service of children that aren't their own, but are treated as such. That teacher who felt the support and concern of a principal who has always been within reach and would recognize the hard work you are doing that goes unacknowledged. You can rely on the fact that she will have your back when you need it most. The leader who takes on the challenging students when you have reached the limit of your patience. The person who can still offer a smile in a few moments of time, even after a day you know was filled with tiny tragedies, grieving words,
and stacks of work yet to be done. Now imagine that bastion of strength, humor, and calm is gone without warning or explanation. You are left to feel the worry and the hurt of students who ask, is she dead? When is she coming back? Or why doesn't she want to be with us anymore? And you are not even permitted to explain to them that she cares deeply for them and would never leave them by choice. Think of the student who feels invisible, whose ideas are given the biggest voice in the school, and now feels seen, and more importantly heard. Now you feel silenced because your ideas and questions painstakingly honored now go unanswered. That student that needs a smile and a hand to hold and a welcome that reassures them that it's okay when they walk through the school doors is missing that comfort they knew so well. That student who didn't use their words or use them to hurt another. That student who knows they are not a bad kid because the principal reminded them that they made a bad choice, but they are never a bad kid. They are not the sum of their actions, and those bad choices are becoming fewer, and that is an achievement. That advocate they trusted who helped repair the wrongs and held them to account with care is gone without so much as a goodbye. Imagine we take on leading the beast that is Northeast, and that job is daunting and endless. Your school day is a revolving door of many emergencies, bruised knees and healings, teachers, evaluations, projects, and more. You spend evenings responding to endless emails, reading documents to support student needs, writing plans for professional development, and agonizing over how to tell a family that their child has made choices that hurt someone and what we can do to restore. You are the shoulder to lean on for a teacher who has just lost everything, the steady hand that guides the wayward students whose actions cannot be contained in a classroom, and a sounding board to teachers who need to talk, and the bridge that joins students, teachers, and families. You have kept the school united and running when the whole world was shut down, delivering necessities personally to families, creating moments of connection and joy in times of fear and isolation, and never allowing yourself to be out of reach of any of your community that might need you. You saw your school through loss, tragedies, emergencies, triumphs, and kept going with those endless hours, sleepless nights, and heartache for the heartbreaks your colleagues and families have had to endure. And for all those hours, the work, the time, the burdens you feel for your community, the community that you love, you are told by a powerful few that it was not enough. 25 years, a life dedicated to a community you love and that loves you back, was not enough. We are pleading with you to think wholeheartedly about what is just and about all of the people that you serve, from the most powerful to the smallest, and for all of us to please restore our community and bring back our principal. Thank you.
Next, John Raymond.
I'd rather stand if I'm all right. I forgot my reading glasses, but Mariah kindly let me hers refer to them. Everybody's here. No way. Dan. I'm a teacher at LICS. I've been involved in working with teens in Ithaca since 1988. I've had some wonderful principals and administrators over the years, and the ones who are present, responsive, compassionate, listen to the concerns of their colleagues, not from a top-down perspective, but as a collective. My understanding from everything about the principal at Northeast is that she worked collaboratively and lovingly. That is the opposite of my experience for the administration at LACS. Our school is facing an administration that thrives on bullying, silences discussion, and advocates favoritism as a method to divide and conquer, all of which corrodes the democratic alternative vision of education upon which LACS is founded. In both cases, the Northeast and LACS, we need central administration to simply listen to teachers, both in general and regarding tenure recommendations. To take the time to talk to us in a deep, thoughtful manner that takes energy and an open mind and an open heart. I have to hold some faith in the decency of both central office administration and the school board. I will end by stating clearly that a culture of fear dominates so many schools right now, that we are afraid to speak our minds. We need numbers. We need to stand side by side to support our students and our schools. Thank you.
Up next is Sandra Roulet. My apologies, Rouleau.
It's not an easy one. Good evening. My name is Sandy Rouleau. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Northeast. I've been teaching in the district since 1987, and in the last 29 years at Northeast. During this time, I've worked for 8 different principals, 6 at Northeast, I stood them out, and at least 4 different superintendents. Each principal I've worked for has had a distinct personality, and it's easy to say the principal I've been working for the last 4 years, hands down, was fully committed to the students, the staff, and parents, working tirelessly through the pandemic to ensure the needs of children and staff were met, locating materials necessary to ensure the best possible success while keeping everyone safe as possible, tirelessly creating funny, engaging announcements for the children each day, responding to their needs, recognizing their accomplishments, and probably, most importantly, communicating out with the families on a weekly basis. The door was always open for conversation, patiently listening to what was needed. During the last decade, there have been many slogans used in the district. Lead with love, 6,000 thinkers, engage, educate, empower are just a few that come to mind. These words are hollow without integrity of a strong central administration to back them. Since May 23rd, it's clear the quality is seriously lacking at 400 Lake Street. While we were here supporting our building principal, we had the opportunity to talk with the high school staff. While talking, we learned that the climate in the high school was just as toxic as it is in so many of the other buildings, and now just learning about LACS. I will admit, at Northeast, we have been sheltered from these feelings until recently. As a school community, we've always been strong, supporting each other, as well as members of the community. In our tragedies, we all pull together to provide as much support as the family needs. Mind you, it might be a school family, or it might be a staff family. During the years I've worked there, we've supported a family where the children and father survived a horrific accident overseas. We've supported several families that have lost everything when their apartments tragically were burned down. families when a parent unexpectedly passed away or was physically incapacitated. Now, with only 6 days left of the school year, a vital member of our community is gone. The children still wonder, will they see this principal before the school year ends? They have questions not answered. In the first full school board meeting, we were told that this is not the time for back and forth conversation during the work session. We were told this is the time. So the question I hope posed to you is, when is the time for conversation, back and forth conversations that are needed? When is it time to speak candidly to staff and parents about the toxic work environment, about the abrupt removal of our principal? Will everyone here, when presented with information, use their integrity to question the validity of what's presented to them?
Next is Brian Goodman.
I'm Brian Goodman, 4th grade teacher at Northeast, 12-year veteran of the ICSD, one of many staff who rallied today to bring awareness to a common concern felt by many ICSD staff. We feel unheard by central admin and some members of our Board of Education. Many of us witnessed this just 3 weeks ago, tonight, right here in this room. A number of folks from the Northeast community, like tonight, brought highly specific examples of what an extraordinary leader and human our principal is. And for our troubles, we received a yes, but, disguised as a yes, and. I paraphrase, yes, and isn't it great that every ICSD school has leaders like this? We heard. Lynn Cosentino, a trans aide at Northeast, had explicitly made the point that no ICSD school has had any leader that could touch our principal. You heard, but you didn't listen. Each staff member that rallied today came out with a variation on this theme. You heard, but didn't listen. And I'd like to focus on one variation that's close to my heart, which is how the central admin appears to treat their staff. Hiring, firing, retention, tenure, improvement plans, transfers. In the ICSD, each of these has been wielded as a weapon to instill fear in the ICSD staff. Tenure helps give some of us the confidence to speak out. Other folks don't get tenure. Teachers' aides don't get tenure. Bus drivers don't get tenure. At our rallies today, the only teacher aides and bus drivers I saw were the ones leaving the district in a couple weeks. I'd like to present ideas to both this Board of Ed and to our incoming Board of Ed members that I hope will move us forward, because living in fear and mistrust is not sustainable. I think a solution to this is what I thought I heard Sean allude to last week, policy reform. And I'd like for staff, families, central admin, and the Board of Ed to pursue policy reform around bias and retaliation. In plain English, what happened at Northeast should never have been allowed to happen. So what could this policy reform look like? You could start granting tenure to ESPs and EAs. How many seconds is that?
It's 3 minutes, but.
Oh, okay. I know this is not a New York State thing. You could form a red flag committee if after 2 years of effective evaluations, a staff member begins to receive otherwise, this committee could be invoked. You could create a protocol for inter-building involuntary transfer beyond what's currently in our contracts. You could create a protocol by which members of a building have a definite say in their next administrator. You could create a protocol for suddenly removing staff from a building that considers the feeling and needs of all teachers, staff, families, and children. And finally, you could create a metric to evaluate to what degree are staff in fear. Is this just us coming and talking, or is this a reality? And perhaps you're in disbelief about this, but I think the unions could help put together a survey of their members that identifies the degree to which this problem exists. I know you all heard, and I hope for the sake of the ICSD you all listened. Thank you.
Up next is Mary Elizabeth McDaniel.
Good evening. My name is Mary Beth McDaniel. I've been teaching in the Ithaca City School District since 1988, so I'm a member of the 80s club. I am a member of the staff at Northeast Elementary. In 2014, my grade level team and I volunteered to highlight the creation of the very first case studies implemented in ICSD. To begin, we needed to search for a topic, and we were encouraged to choose one that empowered students to solve real problems. In the literature from expeditionary learning, we read that in a case study, quote, "As much as possible, the topics are local and relevant and provide experiential potential." Well, at Northeast, we find ourselves living a case study that no one planned for and no one wanted to implement. On Monday, May 23rd, our school-wide guiding question presented itself. Where's our principal? Since then, the Northeast staff and community members have questioned, brainstormed, researched, discussed, designed, built, and shared. Daily evaluation and reflection has been ongoing, and embedded in all these activities have been the foundation for ethical work, respect, empathy, compassion. When I've read on social media or heard others question, why are the teachers reacting this way? Why don't they just tell the kids a story about her absence and move on? Well, we don't, because that's not what we've been called to do as educators and case study facilitators. We are honest, truthful, and authentic with our students. While acknowledging and planning for their developmental needs, we provide them with resources. We validate and affirm their ideas and emotions. We support their problem solving and empower them to make their thinking visible and alive in their community. This is what we do in our classrooms. Why wouldn't we do the same for a member of our school community? So to those who question why, let me be clear. I am not ashamed of the actions of my colleagues and my students since May 23rd. I am not ashamed by their parents, their caregivers, and the Ithaca community members. I am grateful for them. I am heartened by them, and I applaud each and every one of them. Last fall, my class read this book, Change Things, by Amanda Gorman, our nation's first youth poet laureate. This book was a mentor text and an exploration of human rights and the concepts of social justice, discrimination, activism, and restoration. Through her poetry, Gorman calls children to be the activists and the change makers, much like the ones that we teach them about in school. So who would we be if we ignored this chance to be an activist? Certainly not the upstanders that we are daily urging our students to be. This is a living, breathing case study, but it's unfinished. Now it's up to all of you, the board and our district administration, to show us what you have learned from our Where is Our Principal case study. How will it end? Have you heard our voice? Have you read our letters, our cards, our signs? Have you felt the emotion? Have you heard Change Thing? We need our principal back. Be kind to everyone you see.
And last on the list is Liz Kudrowski.
I wrote it as Elizabeth.
I was gonna say that, my apologies. Elizabeth,
It's my formal name.
next time I will make sure I follow rules correctly.
It's habit. No, I'm just teasing you. I want to give props to my Enfield colleagues who were here before and the amazing work that they demonstrated. I actually was a little teary-eyed watching the kids in the hallway. And I thank the board for allowing those opportunities to see the great work that our colleagues are doing because we don't get out of our building. I am a science teacher. I'm driven by data. And I did a little data collection today, as I do. We currently have 68 positions advertised on OLAS and our website. Those are teaching positions. If I round the ITA, which includes specialists, up to 600, which it's not, that's 10% of our workforce is turning over. We know that the summer is the busy time. We will lose more people. If you look at the people we're losing, it's no longer first, second year teachers looking for a greener pasture. It's people who have worked here longer than I have. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Liz Quadrosi. I'm a 6th grade science teacher. I've been here 10 years, a drop in the bucket compared to my colleague who spoke earlier. Every time we bring this issue up, we hear that the teacher shortage is national, and indeed it is, but we can easily compare the number of teachers and the number of positions open with area districts, both in terms of size and in our community. 10% is far above what any other district is facing. We often hear that our human resources department is wonderful and doing a wonderful job of encouraging new teachers to come to our district, and we don't disagree. We do disagree that the district is doing a good job at retaining teachers. A quick look at the board report tells us that that's true. We know that there is no exit interview protocol in our district, so it's astounding to me to say that we can solve this problem if we haven't even acknowledged what's driving the problem. Why are people leaving our district? We hear that they're leaving because they are working somewhere else or their spouse is leaving, but we don't actually do an exit interview. We don't have that data. It's just conjecture. It is a bad situation. Most parents will tell you the experiences, at least in the secondary schools, of classes just being canceled and students in the big, large spaces because we don't have enough staff. I don't bring this to you to complain. I bring this to you because we have to work together to solve this problem. We are not going to have enough teachers to staff our buildings, at the secondary level especially. I didn't actually, wait, no, I did write this down. Often when I do this, people say, we're gonna appoint new people tonight, it's great. So just so we're clear, tonight we're appointing 7 new people, 3 are reappointments. We have 68 openings right now, with more to come. There are changes and revisions, a whole list of them. It would behoove somebody, I don't know who, to look at the data from where people are leaving and what buildings they're going to. Because changes and revisions just create more openings in another building. The final thing I want to say, which I didn't write down, but I'm going to go ahead and say it anyway. Many people at the table here have said to me, when I say teachers are afraid to talk at the board meeting, they're afraid, even teachers with tenure. That's shocking. How could that possibly be? When a 25-year employee whom the district invested in for 25 years suddenly disappears, well, that makes those of us who've been here for 10 years say, hey, maybe I shouldn't go up there and say what I think. Thank you, I appreciate your time.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak at this time? We are totally in person tonight. There is no remote access to this meeting. It's being screened and in the webinar format per our pre-COVID rules. And so if you're in the room, wish to speak, feel free. I'm not hearing anyone. So board response, if you wish.
Just out of the sake of time, John, I would just don't want you sitting here all evening. Please reach out to facilities, but include the entire board so we could ponder your road noise concern and get back to you. I'm not on facilities, but we can bring it up and have the conversation to move it forward.
July 1st, there will be new reorg meeting, new board and new assignments to all the facilities committees. All committees, facilities being one.
Send it to Tricia and she'll circulate it. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
I'm going to try to do this justice, even though I don't believe I will. And I was telling Moira, I hurt my leg this weekend, so I was laid up most of the weekend and did a lot of reading. One of the readings I did was just basically how to respond and not react. And it's difficult to sit here and respond in a way that's effective. And I think the way I want to put this, and I want it to come across in a good way, is because we can't say specific things does not mean we're not listening. Because we can't speak and put somebody's privacy at jeopardy does not mean we're not having conversations. And I mean this with a lot of respect, and I appreciate the passion that came out here. I heard a lot of assumptions, and I understand in a vacuum, people fill that with their own thoughts, and that's not our intention. But I want to say, to come out and put those assumptions out there, may not have the effect that you want. And I'm not trying to put anything on anybody, I'm trying to be genuine here, okay? This is a very endearing and loving and education appreciating community. And, you know, I see that, I feel and I hear that. And I guess I'm looking around the room and I think about who hasn't collaborated in this room. You know, so I actually draw pause where anyone who's reached out to anyone, we've tried to collaborate. There are certain things and instances where we get stonewalled. And I know that sucks, I know that's crap. But these are the times where things get stonewalled until they're not. And I know that's not the answer, I know that stinks, and it's not eloquent, that's reality. And I apologize for it.
Mark.
Thanks, Chris. So, you know, we've been asked to, you know, have we heard, have we read, have we listened, have we felt? And yes, we have. I mean, we can't listen to the passionate emotion, particularly comments about children, our students, who we are here to serve. We can't listen to that and not feel it. You know, and just because we can't comment doesn't mean that we're not listening. And, you know, some people have acknowledged the barriers and the restrictions that we are faced with when we're discussing personnel, when we're asked to questions about personnel matters. Some of you have acknowledged that. At the same time, people are asking for a dialogue. We simply cannot have a dialogue about personnel issues. We just can't. And it's very painful to have to listen, also to have our integrity questioned, and to not be able to say very much at all. You know, there's just one other thing, and I'll speak about, you know, concerns about teacher vacancies. I have been for the past 2 years the chair of the HR committee. And the issue of exit interviews has been raised before. In fact, every employee who leaves the district is offered the opportunity to have an exit interview. We understand that many do not take advantage of that opportunity. We've had discussions in HR about how we might develop an approach that would encourage more people to participate in the exit interviews. We do want to know, you know, what are the reasons that people are leaving our district. We have worked with, those of us on the HR committee have worked with members of the ITA who are working on conducting their own exit interviews and desire to share with the board members, particularly those on the HR committee, what they're discovering. And in fact, there is going to be such sharing once new board members have come on and we have reformulated our committees. So it's something that is being discussed all the time in the HR committee. We are not ignoring concerns about staffing. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. You wanna?
Yeah, trying not to obviously restate what's been stated. So John, thanks again for your comments. This is not the first time this has come up in my stint in Ithaca on this board. Just so we don't hopefully repeat something. One of the challenges has been the conversations about the truckers, right? And if they are going north, what they're effectively asking them to do is not hit 55 until it's time to go up the hill, right? And there are lots of issues around that, as you can imagine, safety not being the least, according to folks who know this stuff more than I do, but I just wanted you to know it's come up before. Renwick Heights, Klein folks are all challenged by the constant noise on that street. But Chris said, I'm not on the facility, hopefully we can do something positive and proactive about it. Two of the teachers who spoke today and previously, your passion is contagious. I mean, it's you may see me in particular, some tough old dude, but I cried when my first grade teacher got pregnant and had to leave. They had to pull me out of the closet. And our principal wouldn't let me go into class until I was presentable and decent, which means she had to pick my hair most days. Right? And I don't know what I would have done if she had disappeared. And you reminded me of that, making me think about that. I love that woman as much as I love my own parents. But in this role on this side of the table, we have to take different things into consideration. Everyone who's come into this room, everyone who's protested, everyone who spoke to us, everyone has written in glowing terms about this principle. But you also know we have information that you don't have. And the folks who don't have those things to say haven't been at this table. Folks who look and feel different incomes, different education levels, different experience with education, even intergenerationally, we haven't been represented. And that makes me question why. Right? It's a holistic, supportive atmosphere, but the question is it that for everyone? Brian, your comments, I'm going to ask you to submit those in writing because those are some really good ideas. Right? Those are concrete things we might be able to take into consideration to move this organization forward. So thank you. Liz, you had some specific things in your comments too that we might be able to take under consideration. This is an iterative, evolving process. And there's one thing I'm sure of, no matter what the hell I think I've done in my 13 years, the next person to fix up the baton for me, I've got 13 more years of grind. And the person after that, we've got 13 more years to grind until we make this the exceptional school district that we want it to be. I will say one thing in my experience here. I think you're right to challenge this board and any board to not result to the floor when it's convenient to us, right? Because there are times where we want to push at a ceiling. We want to go beyond the minimum. We want to go beyond the standards that are set other places. Also times where we say, we can't, we won't, and you know, sometimes there are legal reasons, but other times there are reasons of convenience. There are other reasons, there are reasons of energy, effort, because we're only human. So I support you in your desire to keep pushing us, keeping us in the rear until we are together. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. John, you want? Our board member colleagues always speak well.
I don't have anything thoughts. I know when I ran for the school board, it was right after a large community protest and rally, and a number of my elders and mentors told me that it was time for me to serve. And at that point in time, as some folks may know, you don't say no to particular elders, you just do what they tell you to do. And so I ran for the school board, and I've been on the school board ever since. For everyone who's written to me, I hope that you've gotten a response to me that included my phone number. If you haven't, I've been traveling, but I've been trying to get back to all the emails. And all I'll say is, I'll say two things. One, yes, folks have been seen, heard, and known. Doesn't communicate that way. I understand that. Doesn't translate that way. But deeply reading all the messages. And When is the time for us to have this conversation? There won't be.
Good, Sean?
Yeah. I'm looking good.
All right. Whatever we can say has been said, so student reps, feel free to report, weigh in.
I have a question. I'm sorry, can I ask you a question? Because what you told me resounded a little bit. It made me stop and think. Y'all can't tell us stuff, but what is the process for an employee who gets put on leave? Do y'all communicate with them? Is it just like stop, or how does that work? Or do you not know? I mean, I know you're not,
We know very well, and we can't speak to them, and because we'll be talking about a certain case,
In general, could you, like, in general, like,
a hypothetical person.
Yeah.
Because for me, the unknown is, like, I talked to a lawyer about something, I go, well, what does that mean? What does that do? And to know the steps of what happens, then you can better cope and function. But if you're like putting in your own ideas and speculations, you're like, well what is that? What's going on? And you're making, ideas that aren't real. And
There
it's
is always some
stressful.
communication. It may not feel that way, particularly for folks who are represented by union representatives. So it either could be the president of the union, it often can be the legal team of the union, no matter what union folks may be at. The real question is when we're, so yes, there is conversation. There is dialogue between district personnel and any employee at any point in time.
Does the board communicate with them as well?
Depends
or-
on the situation if it rises to the board level.
We don't communicate with the employee.
No, that's right. My
We
apologies.
would never communicate with the employee.
Thank you.
And
I thought you meant just the board get informed. That's what I heard, so I apologize.
It's just a mystery, something that you've never walked your life through and you wonder, and instead of wondering, if you can answer the question, then you don't have to wonder anymore.
well, very simply, typically there is union representation and also counsel for the union and counsel for the district and counsel for the district, and that's where it goes. In a general sense, we are not involved in that. We can't.
So we are informed.
Thank you.
But
Okay. I'm gonna pull my notes. Okay, I am gonna talk about a little bit. I'm not mimic this as not like a super educated person on the situation, but from what I've heard from staff members and from the people here, I remember being in elementary school and I remember my school principal, and to have him suddenly disappear, I don't know how I would have reacted to that. I'm just gonna say I understand the confusion and the frustration. But I haven't made like a very long statement, so I'm just gonna kind of leave it there. And yes, for the past like 4 weeks. It's been a really kind of long time since I've spoken. This is like the most important 4 weeks at LICS, so it is kind of an interesting time to not talk to you guys. But trips week happened for LICS. It was during a board meeting, that's why none of our student reps were here. It went really well. Our transportation was good. There was no severe things that really happened, but a lot of students had a really good time. Our last couple of ASMs have been about scheduling, especially managing. We were gonna possibly be starting our school day later. That proposal did not pass, but then we also had to deal with adding more like academic or instructional minutes. We were able to process that, which I'm assuming you guys probably have a new schedule now. That went through an ASM process led by actually me and Andrew, which is not here. Our school is recently kind of being updated about the capital campaign. Like I've been hearing about it for the past like long time, but our school is now more informed about it. Students are definitely starting to react more to it, especially hearing the news that we were told that our capital campaign and our front entrance going to be done by the beginning of the school year. It's now getting pushed towards around January. Our student body is not the most thrilled about that. We understand why, but that's just kind of a reaction from us.
There's also currently being an issue of our school was a school that did not have heating very well. Now we do not have AC very well. Our building there's some rooms that still have their heat on, and there's some rooms that are way too cold. So that's still kind of an issue with us. And I know there's nothing we can do in a capital campaign, but I'm bringing it to you guys once again because it's still an issue. We recently had a meeting with transportation with Lily and a couple other people, and it went really well. And our system, LICS has struggled with transportation for the past like 20 years, but it looks like we might be finally getting a little bit better, which I appreciate. Our students, our juniors, recently presented their PBATs, which is a kind of a presentation with a thesis and then multiple arguments that we have to do for each one of our classes in 11th grade. And those recently finished along with our school year. And we recently had today actually, we had our Stewart Park Day, which is where our whole school goes down to Stewart Park and we kind of just celebrate the end of the year. And celebrating the end of the year means the end of this. So yeah, that's LCS.
So this is it?
Not for me, but for the school year and me being able to talk about the student body.
Gotcha.
Next up.
Unfortunately, Aton and Pidak are unable to be with us today.
Yeah, so again, a huge shout out to this entire community of students, caregivers, staff, and teachers for continuing to advocate for transparency and honesty, and we support them in their efforts. From the perspective of a student currently attending IHS, I have also been hearing similar sentiments of lack of communication from both the building and central administration by teachers and staff. This has contributed to an overall sense of confusion between students. We hope that for the next year and with new board members, our district's leadership will work towards resolving these issues. So today is the last day of school for students. This year has been the first full in-person year since COVID hit, and students and teachers alike weather this challenge head on and are excited for the summer. To celebrate the last day, the IHS admin organized a field day with activities such as a dunk tank and cotton candy machine that many students took part in. But before we can fully relax, regents and finals will be taking place for the next 2 weeks, which students are preparing for. There have been a lot of updates and events since the last board meeting. First, the orchestra and band spring performance was phenomenal and was an amazing showcase of our students' musical talent. I hope everyone was able to attend. Casino night, organized by the senior class, was a fun event with students winning numerous prizes, including a kayak. Last Saturday was this junior prom, which was planned by our awesome class officer team and was a great moment for our class to come together and have fun. This Friday is the senior prom, which will be at the farmers market and will be the seniors' first prom due to missing junior prom from COVID. On the topic of seniors, Adam will have to leave tonight's meeting early to attend the senior sunset, which is happening today at 8. It's already 8:23. Class officer and board rep elections took place last week, and the new officers have been elected for the new school year. Yesterday was the second year of the annual Students of Color United Summit. This was an event for all students of color in the middle schools and high schools to come together to build community and inspire. I participated in this and greatly enjoyed the art environment that was created. All throughout, on a different topic, all throughout the school year, students have griped about a particular issue, the doors in IHS. Some of the doors into the building are open in between class periods during the passing period, while others remain locked from the outside all day. Many of the doors have card access readers that allow staff to open them at any time, yet students have to be let in via buzzer at the main entrance or at the welcome center. This makes it very difficult for students to find their way into the building before and after school, and also during periods. For example, if arriving at school late or moving during a lunch or free period. However, the buzzers to let students in tend to be rather slow, leading students to rely on their peers to open doors for them around the buildings. This poses a security threat to the school as it forces students to make judgment calls whenever someone is knocking on a door asking to be let in. As a solution, we ask that for the 2022-23 school year and beyond, IHS student IDs would be able to be used as scan cards
that can let students into the building during the school day at certain entrances, such as the main entrance, the entrances into the music building, and the entrances into the gym areas. This would make it much easier for students to get around during the day and would greatly reduce the security risk of the current situation. And as Adam will mention, I have been re-elected to serve as a student representative for my 3rd year, and I'm looking forward to continuing working together with the board and admin to tackle these ever-growing issues. I'd also like to recognize the 3 seniors, Eitan, Kadek, and Adam, who I have had the great pleasure of working with this year, and Adam for the past 2 years. They have helped to revitalize the importance of this role and position and were essential in hearing students' voices. I've admired their bravery and eloquence in speaking to the board and always speaking for what's right. I wish them the best of luck in their future endeavors.
This morning, all IHS students received an email from Ms. Talcott asking for interested and passionate IHS students to apply to be advisors to the district in building curriculum over the summer. As a student reps, we'd like to express our appreciation for this action by the district and look forward to seeing the impact of these student advisors in class next year and beyond. And this is a really great move, something that we've been hoping to see for a long time. And we also appreciate that there is actual compensation going along with it. Speaking of end of the year things.
Did you say actual compensation?
Yes, they will be paid for their work.
That's a nice word if we can get.
Yeah. Speaking of end of year stuff, new student representatives to the board were elected this past week by the students of IHS before Grace was re-elected. And along with her, Mukund, did Mukund leave? Mukund Gar Jr. was elected, Mira Khan, also a junior, and Claire Park, a freshman, were elected to succeed myself, Eitan, and Kadek. After 2 years, it feels a little bit crazy to be here after my last ever day of high school and at what may be my last Board of Education meeting as a student representative to the Board of Education. Serving in this role has been usually my most significant undertaking and my proudest and most meaningful work that I've done in high school. And I'm incredibly grateful to the student body of IHS for allowing me to serve in this position for 2 years. I'd also like to thank the board for granting me a place at this table. Although it hasn't always been smooth, has offered attention and a listening ear for all of our messages, concerns, and everything else from the high school. I'd also like to recognize Ms. Bergman, the family liaison at Ithaca High School, for all of her years of service and the incredible work she does advising us in this important role. Ever since my first prep meeting at the beginning of junior year, Ms. Bergman has supported me in my quest to expand the scope of this role. Grace as well offered me strategies and advice on public speaking, cooled me down whenever I get too hot discussing a topic, and played devil's advocate whenever she needed to. All of the incredible work I and the other reps have been able to accomplish in the last 2 years would not have been possible without Ms. Bergman's presence, guidance, and assistance. Lastly, I'd like to express my thoughts on some of the comments made during the public comment portion of today's meeting. I think, first off, everyone who spoke was incredibly well spoken, and as someone who didn't go to Northeast and don't know any of the people involved, your emotion and all that really came across beautifully. Kind of echoing what Grace said earlier, as a student at IHS and having served in this role for 2 years, I have felt that oftentimes the structure of our schools and administration, all that kind of stuff, has felt somewhat stifling to a student who is passionate about changing things for the better and making a real impact where it can be felt. Now, this is not to say that our administrators are not motivated and willing and do their best to support our students and staff. However, I have felt that there is a somewhat unhealthy culture in this district. We often talk for and advocate for a culture of love, which we all strive to achieve, and yet oftentimes it isn't felt. I know that it took me a while even to have the bravery to truly express my concerns in this room, and I commend all of the teachers here for doing so as well. On the teacher shortage question, so many of my teachers in the last few years have been first-year teachers, and they've all been wonderful. So we clearly do a very, we have a very successful hiring, system. However, some of my most formative teachers, in middle school, in elementary school, and middle school, and in high school, for both myself and my little brother, have left the district since I was their student. Some of them for retirement, many of them leaving for other places. And some of these teachers are teachers that I think about, and if this teacher leaves, I feel so sorry for the students who will have to go through the school without them. So I think it's incredibly important that we do everything that we can to retain these teachers who are so crucial to the future of our community, by raising pay, by increasing support, and also by making all of the decision-making processes at the central level and at the building level much more involved for teachers and students alike. Many of my teachers express confusion at how policies are made at the building level, what structure is like, what they can or can't do, how they can receive funding, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's incredibly important that we open new channels and widen existing ones for communication and conversation in all of our buildings in order to support our staff and students as best we can. And I also think that it's incredibly important that when concerns are brought to the central decision-making body of our district, that assumptions are not made about where they come from, or like their motivations beyond their true concern for their students, their colleagues, and our community, and that is that contributes to the feeling of someone call it perhaps intimidation or unease with raising concerns. That's all. Thank you.
I can make mine quick. Zara, I hope you had a good trip. I remember doing a bike trip at LACS for 7 years and riding a bike to Toronto and back, which I would not do again at this age. But very much appreciative of the experience that LACS trips we bring and building folks together. So I hope it was a good trip. Adam, I'm looking forward. I've already written your name down. I'm gonna keep Googling you for the next couple of years. So good luck as you move through the experience. And I know you have plenty of people who can support you, but if at any point in time you feel like there are other folks who can support you or I can support you, please do not hesitate to reach out. It doesn't mean we always have to agree, but it does mean that I'm committed to your success as you move forward. And Grace, that's a great question about the doors. You should know that we had an ICSD safety plan committee last week that a number of folks attended. The doors at Ithaca High School, not just at Ithaca High School, at Boynton, at DeWitt, at LACS, at a number of places were one of the main topics of conversation. Taking a look at what technology is available, not available. Should a door that's been propped open for 60 seconds ring an alarm so at least we know it's been propped open? A host of things that we're going to be doing over the summer and having some additional conversations connected to capital reserve projects as well, realizing the one at LACS may be a little bit longer than we anticipated. But that's something that we will be doing, and we will reach out at this point in time to invite student perspectives as well, right? Because the experience that students have is vastly different than, is somewhat different than our educators have coming in and out of buildings as well. So that is something that's on the radar, and we will we'll keep folks posted as much as possible. Thanks, Sean.
Okay, I'll go. Yes, I understand that trips at LACS went very well. I heard and saw a lot of pictures of the New Orleans trip, since my daughter, who's a teacher at LACS, was there in the heat and humidity, as well as my grandson, who enjoyed New Orleans, as he puts it. And also, Zara mentioned PBACs, performance-based behavior. I forgot that. Performance-based assessment. Tasks, yes. So I had the great privilege a couple of years of being an evaluator for PBACs, and I find it, an incredibly impressive and engaging process. I was away this year, so I didn't get to do that anymore this particular year. Really happy that both IHS and LACS had beautiful weather for your outdoor activities today. Also, at IHS and LACS, there are still things happening even though classes are suspended. One of the things that is continuing to happen at IHS is students in the WISE program are giving their presentations. I'm gonna be an evaluator on Thursday for one. So it's not entirely over. There's a lot going on at all of our schools for at least another week.
Christie, we don't have to go down the line.
I'll be very brief. Zara, thank you for sharing your information. And the capital projects being pushed back, unfortunately, we heard that was happening, and hopefully we can get this heating and cooling situation rectified as quickly as possible. Grace, congratulations to being reelected. Congratulations to all the new reps. Welcome, welcome. Adam, thank you for sharing everything and also talking about your journey and your growth. One thing I learned late in life, and it sounds like you're learning a little bit earlier than me, I believe that there's always a space where we can disagree respectfully, and I always say this, just because we have a conversation doesn't mean it has to be a confrontation. And I think when we learn that, we're all better for it. And I think that's some of the trajectory we're on as people, as human beings. Good luck to you. I would extend the same thing Sean did, but I don't think you need my help. You'll be just fine. Yeah, enjoy this, man. You've done the work. Yeah.
I guess I'll add the same congratulations to our students moving on and the ones who are coming back and the newbies who will have the pleasure of working with. I would also thank Ms. Bergman for clarifying the goal of having the students at this table after some weeks where the tension seemed to increase. And I have to admit, I was under the assumption that one of the reasons our students were here was to learn from us and be critical thinkers about the very things that people on that side of the table are asking. Take one thing, for example, the students who were sitting there asking for the new Green Deal a couple of weeks ago. Went to some meetings in Albany, understood the scope of the problem statewide in the hundreds of billions of dollars, right? Especially infrastructure to build the capacity to supply the school buses with the electricity if we got 60 tomorrow. We're not even close to having the capacity to keep those buses on the road. Since then, the federal government has stepped up, right? And said, we're gonna give states X amount of money because we understand the Herculean nature of the problem. And we're always getting information like this. It's our job. In fact, we're on the road to Albany in the Legislative Action Committee several times a year, and I think I've said this before, from this significant, we've gotten laws passed that affected the entire state. And I hope we get off on a better foot, right, with the group of students who are going to be sitting in next year to understand we are looking for partnership. If that includes criticism, fine, we're adults, we can take it. But I'm going to say what Chris said differently. Conflict doesn't bother me at all. I have conflict every day of my life. I'm not interested in combat, especially with the students who we're here to serve. I hope you saw the smiles on their faces when those little people came out. That's what we are here to do. And I can tell that all those presenters are going to be excellent orators when they get to high school, and we want to continue to expand their capacity to advocate for themselves. Last thing I'll say is, John, I was remiss in not acknowledging you specifically. Everybody at this table, especially the guy who worked in the school with you, we understand your contributions, we understand what you brought to that school, we understand the thousands of students you've affected, and I think we all listened. What we are capable of doing with that information will remain to be seen, but I just want to acknowledge you and say thank you.
You're welcome, and I'd just like to thank you all and ask you to please continue to try to bring as much clarity as possible to what the actual process is for reviewing tenure, because right now it's very opaque. It does not seem to involve teacher input. That's pretty much what I've been told, and I do not understand that. So if you guys could at some point speak to that publicly, we'd really appreciate it.
Okay, very good. We really do need to move on, but again, thank you all for your service. Thank you for your attendance. Okay, sorry, I'm not gonna, I'll point it out, we have 5 board members here tonight. And, but I was here at some meetings, but I was way overmatched by seven perhaps, student reps, and it was me and Elbert maybe, and others were remote.
About me.
And others were remote, and I heard talking about being present. It's critical that board members are present in school buildings and meetings, and that's the only way that we really can see each other, hear each other, appreciate. We always appreciate the work that is done in this district. And yes, yeah, I've been chair of facilities for a long time, or I've been on it for a long time. Decision was made when Albany delayed approval of phase 2 and our capital projects for the 2019 referendum. We finally got approval and decided, instead of waiting another year, let's go ahead, and yes, contracts had to be signed and things are starting. I'm seeing construction at South Hill. There will be work done at LECS, and it's taking things a little bit longer to get done, but figured it was better to get construction started at LECS this summer, and how we've done it, and great staff and leadership throughout the district at buildings to work around it and make sure that these projects get done, get the heat fixed, get the bathrooms fixed, get your entryway the way it should be. But really appreciate all your work, and we'll eventually see a new entryway to LECS and a whole bunch of work done outside. So that will be great to see, and that's coming up in 2022 and a half, I guess. So it's always a pleasure, and but we're going to have to move on to the rest of the board meeting. Adam needs to. We're starting to see it, Adam. So thank you all. It's been great to get to know you.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you, Adam.
And thank you, Bryce. Bryce coming back for a third year. That's not almost unheard of, Chris, but, so let's get some more work done. Because we do have work to do, and do have a modification to an agenda, I believe.
Yes, we are going to add a supplemental addition to the personnel report.
That's on the consent agenda, so I appreciate that. And that's the only modification, and we just need a motion.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Hold on.
Wait,
Oh. She'll be back. Well, you can move and second it, we can't act on it yet, but.
I move the consent agenda with modification.
Second.
Second by Chris and Bob. And we have a runner. Mr. Elder. And the consideration of accounts is there for all to see, or at least.
Anything needs to be commented on?
For the record. Pretty limited as far as finance, et cetera, and other things.
Yeah, I forgot to get your word. You did ask, I apologize.
I'll respect.
The consent agenda with the modification was moved and seconded.
Do you have any questions regarding the agenda? No, consent agenda, okay. Moved, seconded, all in favor, we can just do a show of hands. That's everyone, thank you very much. And Dr. Brown.
Yes, sir, thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Ansley. Just very briefly, we're excited to announce, and I think you may have already heard, but to announce that our first art show in person will be taking place in this room tomorrow, 3:45 to 5 p.m. Our young people from DeWitt will have their artwork on display, and there'll be light refreshments served, and they will be sharing some artifacts of their amazing learning. I must admit, it brought a different level of energy than people were setting up. So we're getting back to normal, and we know that we start to see artwork and art shows in person again.
Boy, it's been a while.
It's been a few years. That's the only announcement I have this evening, and thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Dr. Brown. Always clear, concise, and quick, which is great. School district business hybrid meetings. Today we are fully in person because the special emergency dictates from executive actions from Albany and the governor have run out as of June 8th. So some districts I know are just saying, hey, that's great. We're back in full and we can go back to what we were pre-COVID, and that's the way we're going to handle it. Every district has a right to do that. Districts also have a right to go through a process where we will allow hybrid meetings. But as part of that hybrid meeting, there has to be 5 in-person board members in, for now, this room. And so it's, Sean, I'm not sure if probably this is a policy and resolution stuff, if you want to just walk us through it a little bit. And
yeah, there'll be, the state is requiring us to set the ground rules for us to do any hybrid meetings. In essence, what it means is that there is the possibility under emergency situations for board members to participate in a hybrid matter. And while the meeting is streamed, we will need to have a public hearing, which I recommend we set for June 28th, 2022, to discuss the various stipulations. These are not stipulations that ICSD has decided. They are taken almost directly from the governor's office and the recommendations of how to comply with open meeting law and I was going to say post-COVID, but that's not the way I want to say it. Following the fact that the previous COVID exemptions are no longer in effect. So we will be in person for this meeting and next meeting, at the very least, to have a conversation, to discuss the procedures and expectations, and then the board can decide if it wants to complete the resolution to have a hybrid option available for board meetings.
Sean, I have a couple questions. I don't know whether you can answer them, but maybe we can get some clarification between now and the next meeting.
Yes.
So one question is that the resolution, the draft of the resolution that we have
Yep.
Says that that New York State enacted permanent amendments to the open meetings law. And I thought that what I read a few weeks ago was that it was not permanent. It was a modification that would, if a board passed a resolution, they could have hybrid meetings under following certain parameters, but that was only going to go till sometime in 2024.
My understanding it was, but I will find, I know what the part you're talking about, and I will find that out.
Right, so that was question number one. Question number two, I wrote these down earlier when I was looking at this.
You write a lot down there.
I write a lot down, keeps me focused, and it's an aid to memory.
I appreciate it.
A thing that I was a little, that the draft resolution I wasn't entirely clear about is that if we have a board meeting, if we pass this resolution, that under certain circumstances, a member of the board can be virtual. If we have a meeting where no members of the board are virtual, can the public participate virtually?
That has been an ongoing topic of conversation about whether or not there is a necessity for public participation with or without the board being virtual.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a question for us to ask our legal counsel
Okay,
or
yeah.
check the governor's office.
I'll just add that participation could potentially also include public comment, right?
That's what I'm saying, public comment happening virtually, even if there are no board members participating virtually. I was a little unclear about that. And also I'm a little unclear about committees. So would this resolution cover committee meetings as well? So if a member of a committee wanting to participate virtually, would we then have committee meetings that would be hybrid?
The language is currently committees and or subcommittees of the board.
Okay.
But as Rob has reminded us as well, it mandates that there is a quorum in person. So
right.
A meeting is not, so in other words, all three of us could not be video conferencing for a committee.
Right.
There would have to be a quorum.
A quorum would be,
the
we have
committee.
two out of three would have to be in person.
That's correct.
That's my.
Yeah.
That's my read as well.
That's
and
my
I will-
take on it,
And I will
Okay.
verify that as
Okay.
well.
just trying to be consistent with the idea of quorum being necessary to be in person.
Right. And then part of the, and this again came from at the state level, where's the language that I'm looking for, that if a member is participating virtually, they have to have their camera on at all times, they have to be identified by a nameplate, they have to be able to be seen and heard.
At all times.
At all times. Now, what about restroom breaks? And the same thing, like, Eldred left the room and we temporarily didn't have a quorum. Should we have some, is there some protocol for when a board member either participating virtually or in person, indicates I am briefly leaving the room?
Well, back in the day when we had much longer meetings, the And when we get to a certain point, perhaps 9 o'clock, and there's gonna be another hour and a half, okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Yeah.
But there, you know, when we're meeting, and frankly, well, okay,
Yeah.
chair has to be in the meeting in order
Right.
to run the meeting, and so if
I've
the chair
never
has,
seen you leave the
if
room,
the chair
Rob.
has to have the stamina to sit here or stand here, and Chris had to stand up because, well, we know Chris had a tough weekend.
I'm old.
Pulled a hammy or whatever.
Playing kickball.
But I think it just, if the board in person takes a break, then
Right.
the person, it's just,
Right.
it's going to have to be different than what frankly happened when we were partially remote. And we
Right.
certainly would have board members that would be for part and then because we would
We
do
wouldn't
votes.
see them,
And well, do votes and there'd be no response. And so that can't continue. That was all an emergency. So we would have 5 or 6 or whatever. But that's not, that model isn't this model.
Right.
And there's an expectation that you will be present. We talked about you're really, if you're a board member and you signed up for it, and I never knew that if you're a board member, attendance at a board meeting was kind of an optional thing.
Right.
It's Tuesday night, there's a meeting at 6 o'clock, and I need to build that into my schedule.
So there's a couple of things that we have got to talk about. One, pre-COVID, a board member missing 3 consecutive board meetings were grounds for the board to vote for dismissal. That has happened across the state. Doesn't mean there's a lot of emergencies that have been taking place. The world has changed. We also know there have been board members, not talking about an Ithaca City School District. I watch a lot of board meetings where you never see the board member, their camera is never on, right? Much like happens in some classes as well. So this is an attempt to say that no, if you're going to be hybrid, your camera must be on. I presume that you would have a break to leave the room for a minute, but I'll confirm that as well. But I presume that's the case. I think the goal was trying to address that you cannot attend the meeting in a hybrid fashion and not be visible on camera. But we'll
And also, you know, this language, this is really just to let anybody listening understand what these new requirements that attendance virtually has to be for a extraordinary reason that has to be identified and has to be identified with enough advance to let the public know,
And the board.
the rest of the board, that there will be a member who is participating virtually.
So if we can, I'm sorry, Maura, are there additional comments?
I think that's maybe it.
So feeds the conversation over
Right.
the next couple of weeks.
Right.
So if we can agree, if we can add into the written document that's in our agenda, that the public hearing will be June 28th, 2022 at 6 p.m. We can make sure that it has the attachment of what the proposed protocols are and answer the questions that Moira has asked, as well as questions of any staff, student, faculty member, or community member as well about what does this hybrid model look like.
Right.
And right now, again, just so everyone knows, we are following the directives from the governor's office that was released last month.
Just on the topic of attendance, like being on camera, what is the policy for board members, like attendance? I'm honestly just curious because I haven't heard or seen some board members in a while. I don't mean to call anyone out.
I think that's what I was trying to say, that there's an expectation that board members will be in attendance in person according to this new policy, unless there's an extraordinary circumstance with it being hybrid. And when board members miss 3 consecutive meetings, according to New York State law, ed law, the board can vote to dismiss a board member if that's the case.
And it goes to the Commissioner of Education. I mean, you can vote that and then, but I think that has to be
Right.
That's a rare step that most boards do not take. I think it's typically the board's gonna work it out amongst themselves. But right, Grace, and we talked about this a bit. There's obligations, there's responsibilities for serving on the board. And it's, you know, folks signed up, were voted in and ran for this job that takes up a fair amount of time. And so it's, but it's not, you know, it's not a question of penalizing anyone. It's just a matter of years past, the attendance prior to remote access, really, board members rarely missed a meeting. The part of the Zoom reality is that, well, you know, I'm gonna remote in, and which is great, but it just seems like there's and frankly, it goes with the kids in school. I mean, there's a lot easier to have barriers to tuning in and being involved and being present and really absorbing what the dynamic is, the conversations between board members and you all and the folks in the community being in the room. And the whole idea of running for the board and why I ran a long time ago was to have a seat at the table. There was some things that I wanted to change and be a part of, and working with these folks, we were able to do a lot. But the idea is, okay, if you're going to be a board member, you have a seat at the table, and you have a vote, and nobody else does. You have a vote, you have a seat at the table, and to not attend and frankly not really be aware of what's going on, there's no way to catch up, and we just miss a lot. So it's just, and frankly, you're not serving the community in a way that is, you know, we need 9 voices, we don't just need 5. Well, we have a quorum, we can have a meeting, but it would be great if we had all 9 here. But Chris, did you want?
I just wanted to say this isn't my job, I'm a volunteer.
Yes.
Right. I'm sorry.
No, it's, yeah, my wife always said, which job, which meeting, which job are you going to tonight? So,
next step.
So yes.
To move forward, I make a motion that we agree to hold a public hearing on the use of video conferencing to conduct public meetings on June 28th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
Second.
So the motion is not for the hybrid meetings, the motion is for the public hearing for discussion.
Public hearing discussion of the meeting.
Yes. We're clear, and Sean, you're good with your language?
I think I am.
Good, all right. Moved, seconded, all in favor? That's excellent. Appreciate the conversation. Your reorg meeting, we need to set that.
There wasn't. Is there an issue with the date?
No, there's not, but historically we have.
I'll move the resolution that the Ithaca City School District Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, approves the scheduling of the annual Board of Education reorganization meeting for Friday, July 1st, 2022 in the board room of the district offices at 400 Lake Street, Ithaca, New York, and direct the district clerk to provide notification of such. Now, we have a time. I don't see any time here. I don't remember we discussed time.
We have usually started early, 9
Right,
a.m.
we usually had like, yeah, it was a morning meeting
9 o'clock
in
to
the
get it
past.
over.
Right. So
That is 9 a.m.
at 9 a.m.
With,
I moved it.
with that,
second.
second by Chris. We all good? Good with the time, good with all that? All in favor? That's everyone. And
And Tricia, we're gonna call on Tricia here, but, because she is the board clerk and she provides and what's the word? The oath, well, administers, thank you, administers the oath of office to new school board members. And
Can't get any newer than this.
so, I don't know, Sean, do you wanna walk us through this, or can we just, Eldred understands now, right? Or-
Right.
That's always suspect, right?
So as-
Don't ever assume I understand.
As a result of the last election, which there will continue to be additional conversation about, Eldred, as the vote getter, in that election, will complete the, previously, vacated term. Which means, legally that Eldred takes the oath within 30 days of the election. If it was not a current school board member, that person would have started on the school board immediately to fulfill that term. Because Eldred is on the school board, he's continuing with the term, and we're just administering the oath to make sure we stay within the guidelines as they are. Realizing that Eldred's term also already continues until July 1, but here we go.
Eldred's gonna double up.
Technically, we have two votes. We get paid twice to vote.
Yes, you do.
So I'm gonna turn it over to Tricia.
Okay. Board of Education member Eldred D. Harris is elected to a 2-year term to the Board of Education of Ithaca City School District for the 2022-2024 school year, effective May 18th, 2022 to June 30th, 2024. And Eldred, you may read your oath.
I, Eldred Lee Harris, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Board of Education member according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. This process will be replicated on July 1st for the other school board members, but they will start then. And we're just going to do a couple of mergers, and I think that's going to be about it. But we have a merger for Montessori for middle school. We've done this multiple times. And
I move agenda item 11.4, merger request for EAC Montessori for sports program for the 2022-2023 academic year.
Second.
Second and third, is that too good?
second by Chris, and any questions there? It's all good, modified sports, everybody plays, okay. All in favor? It's everyone. And now we have a merger request for, where everybody doesn't play, but it's for Lansing School District and girls hockey for one athlete, I believe.
I move that the resolution to approve the varsity girls ice hockey merger with the Lansing School District for the 2022-23 school year, according to the rules and regulations of STAC and the New York State Public High School Athletic Association.
Second.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Mario. You were more detailed than Sean was, but that's good. I appreciate
I'm
that.
just reading.
No, it's all good. So, there are numbers, as far as I know girls hockey a little bit, and numbers are good, that meaning they need more numbers, so that's all good. So all in favor, that's everyone, Eldred twice, perfect. So we're good. Upcoming dates of importance. Well, frankly, it said the guy graduation like next Tuesday. We didn't mention that earlier, but Adam is graduating next, for real, next, and others are graduating next Tuesday. We will not be, Amanda's not, Amanda, we're not, there's no real reason to do facility, we're not doing facilities and finance and all that, or do we need to on Tuesday?
Was scheduled, but let's consult and I'll let you know.
We pretty much.
Let's move it because it sounds like there's something really important on Tuesday night.
Right, well, it's,
Yeah.
well, it's through the day, right, but again, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And frankly, we have started phase 2, as we talked about, and we're really getting into the summer, and yes, facilities and finance will also have to meet during the summer. But for right now, there's not a lot to update the community on, other than, you know, a lot of construction is happening to a school and location near you. And yeah, still waiting on paint with grit in it for the pool. And I figured if we can't, there's no reason to have a meeting if they can't get that thing done by next week, you're not gonna get it done. So I washed my hands. So
We're waiting on paint with.
yeah,
it's, yeah.
no,
No, don't go there.
No, and I'm being respectful when I said it. I mean, every single month there's something else that we're waiting on, and it's been a concern. And folks are trying their best to remedy the situation. It's just it's never ending for
some of
2+ years.
some of the projects.
Yeah.
Basically, just wanted to be clear that we will not be having work sessions next Tuesday.
Yes.
We'll wrap up the finance piece of this district June 30th, and then there will be audits this summer, and so that's all going on. So it's really down to, yes, we will have a meeting on the 28th. We will have our last regular voting meeting on the 28th at our usual time. We just talked about a public hearing on that day at 6 o'clock. We'll start at 6 with that public hearing. Then there will be, there's more work to be done and more votes to take, and that'll be on the 28th, and that will wrap up this 21-22 school year. So we're good, and everybody should go home.
Thank you all.
So sometimes